Hi, my name is YoungsunYoo. I'm a psychology student at Monash. Today I'm very excited to share my media review. The article that I've chosen is called Introvert, You May Just Be Better at Recognizing Faces by Karen Lander. And I found this article on the conversation platform. There are two reasons why I chose this article. First, the title really captured my attention because as an introvert myself, I was curious about authors' perspective on this matter. And secondly, the article seems very closely aligned with our Module 6 personality. So I will explain how this article falls under the Module 6 by giving a summary of it. So the central theme of this article is that personally, especially being an extrovert, influence on people's ability to recognizing faces. So make it simple, the more you're extrovert, you'll be better at recognizing faces. So to support her claim, she provides some external resources, findings, and she also shares her own research results, which indicate a positive relationship between extroversion and recognizing faces. So as to review whether this article is worth reading it, I have used CARS framework. So it's a tool for distinguishing between higher and lower quality of sources of information. So this provides a critical lens to information that we're reviewing. And there are four parts: credibility, accuracy, and reasonableness, and lastly support. And I will all cover this in later slides. So credibility. Also here we look at whether the author or writer has the expertise to speak about our topic and whether article has been reviewed for the quality check. So there are two main parts: author's credibility and source credibility. So let's look at the first one. So as for the credential and expertise, she has included her name and her designations on here in the article. And I did a bit extra research on Google Scholar, and I could found that since 1999 until now, she has published about 80 plus peer-reviewed articles regarding this topic. So I can say that she has expertise on this. Also, we check whether there's conflicts of interest, and she has included the disclosure statement that she had received funding from this previous organizations. So I can say that there's a potential that there's a conflict of interest. So as for the source credibility, whether it was reviewed, it doesn't specifically say which reviewer reviewed, but says all the articles that was posted on the conversation was edited by the professional journalist. And as for the structure and format, she kind of used personal pronouns such as we or our work. But considering that this is not a peer-reviewed article, but rather a media review, I found it quite suitable. And as for the grammar spelling, I went to check on the Grammarly, and it all came out to be quite good. So based on the overall evidence on the author's credibility and source credibility, I believe the credentiality is quite high, so I gave 4.5 out of 5 for this part. So in the accuracy, we are looking at whether it is up to date, whether it's price, and it is complete. So let's look at the timeless. So here we are looking at the recency of the article. So this article was published in 2019, which is about 5 years ago, and the main supporting article that she used was conduct in 2015. It was her research, which is about 9 years ago. So I found it quite outdated. Also, ever since 2019, I could found that she has published more articles, update version of this topic. So I can conclude that this information is a bit quite outdated. Okay, as for the second one, whether it was provide factor information, here I look for some evidence such as numerical statistics, and I could found that she mentioned something like there was 100 volunteers, some numerical numbers on here, and whether it matched with the primary source. I went to look for the primary source, and I could see that a lot of them were overly simplified. So rather than stating lots of numbers or explanation, she just stated like there was a positive relationship. So I found it quite overly simplified. And lastly, for the comprehensiveness, it means whether it provides multiple perspectives. And there were two main supporting articles that she used, but I found that it all had one-side views. So overall I gave 2.5 out of 5 for as the article is outdated, and moreover, the main idea was based on the research which was conducted 9 years ago. Also, even though they stated factual information, however, most of them are very overly simplified. So, and also the supporting articles only composed of one-sided perspective. So reasonableness part. So what we are looking here is that whether information is unbiased, objective, and logically sound. So we're looking at three different parts. And so first, fairness. So here, there was no mentioning of other views or has it introduced any conflicting views. So I believe I can say that the fairness was compromised here. For the tone of the message, whether it was objective, as you can see from this part of article, the author used lots of maybe, tends to be, if so then it may be, or it could be. So she used a lot of assumption, so therefore I can conclude that the tone of the article is not very objective and not so persuasive. And also for the logical part, we can see by doing that, author committed a heuristic error. What you mean by the heuristic error is that you make a shortcut judgment. If like this, oh, then it may be like this. So in summary, I gave 2 out of 5 for the original part, and it only contain one side view, which can cause bias, and how authors support her ideas by assumptions, by using like maybe rather than a numbers or concrete words. So I found that it can be quite subjective. And lastly, by doing so, the author committed lots of heuristic error, which overall compromised the originalness of the article. So support here, we look at whether information can be corroborated and is consistent with other repetitive resources. So here we look at 3 main parts. For the supporting evidence, yes, she has used 2 main articles. One was published in Journal of Experimental Psychology in 2015, and the other main one was published in Community Integral Biology, and she has provided the link to it. And as for the corroboration, we look at whether the other external resources also corroborate her idea. So I found the 3 articles that claims that expression influence on the face recognition. Right. As for the external consistency, so here we look for broader external consistency. So I could find 2 articles that personally has influence on this kind of memory or this kind of recognitions. So overall, I gave 4 out of 5 for the support. The author provides the citations and use primary sources and provide relevant articles to support her evidence. And when I look external resources, I could find at least 3 articles to corroborate it. So for the final verdict, I partially recommend the article, but with some reservations. So using the course framework, critically scored 4.5, the highest, supported by the author's expertise, peer review, and funding disclosure, and the structure and grammar was quite good. Next one was support, 4 out of 5, with the author referencing peer-reviewed articles and providing verification link. And next, accuracy got 2.5 with potential outdated information despite accurate primary source. And lastly, reasonableness got 2 out of 5 due to having one side viewpoint and uncertain languages, which led to a heuristic error. So overall, the article got 13 out of 20, indicating value but requiring critical analysis due to its limitations. And lastly, this is the reference that I have used, and thank you for watching my video.